All right, so here we are with another Friday in the garage. I've got Swammy over here. We've been at it for a little while. Uh, and, we've accomplished some things and we figured out some things that aren't so great. Sam is taking a look at all the polyurethane bushings right now. He's going through the rear, but we did take some time and start tearing apart the front. Uh, I shouldn't say we were tearing apart the front. We were putting the front back together because that was the major goal for today was to, I don't know, get the front or the rear or something done. And here's where we've gotten so far today. We've got all the bushings in, front upper control arms, front lower control arms. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of tough. Got our strut in, shock, strut. I can never call it the correct thing. And that's all looking good on this side. However, on the other side, we ran into a bit of an issue. Sam, would you like to maybe speak with our dedicated viewers regarding the issue we ran into over here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Hold on, I just found the correct bushings for the next control arms.
Why don't you just go ahead and drop everything you're doing and
Yeah, I'll just stop.
just cater to
Don't
me? Thank you.
worry about it.
We have kind of like a grumpy girlfriend in the garage this evening.
Oh my god, shut up.
He's been giving me answers like okay and fine.
There's nothing wrong, Adam, okay?
There's nothing wrong. Everything's fine. Just
we can discuss this later, okay? We don't have to do this right now.
Just do whatever you want. I don't care.
Okay, do you want me to do this or not?
I do. Yeah. Okay.
So you had issues with this car from the beginning, which is kind of what started partially this whole suspension rebuild
Yeah.
thing, right?
It was a rickety.
There was noticeable looseness in the front end at the very least, noise, feeling.
Felt bad.
So when we took all this stuff apart, we noticed that this lower ball joint here, it was loose, and we weren't initially. We just thought it was a worn out ball joint. Well, it was partially worn out, but the other part of the problem was that the nut that holds the knuckle on here was loose. It was actually backed off maybe a millimeter or so. So you could actually pull the knuckle up and down. There was slack. The nut wasn't tight, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it backed off on its own, or if somebody just never tightened it all the way, or somebody had it a little bit cocked when they try to tighten it, and then over time, as things move around and get used, it loosened itself up. I don't know, but I was initially a little bit worried that the knuckle was worn out, because if this thing is banging around on the taper of the ball joint there, it could very easily get ovaled out, or just worn in a weird way, or just opened up too much, or the taper might not be smooth and straight. It could have spots where it's a little bit more open or worn. So anyway, we weren't sure. Obviously we were kind of already planned on refreshing all the suspension arms and all new ball joints and bushings and everything. So we went ahead and just did all that. When we pulled the knuckle off, it didn't look bad. It still doesn't really look bad. It doesn't really look, although, without getting a dial caliper on there and taking some real measurements, it's hard to say. But it didn't look all that bad. So we said, all right, well, let's just get new ball joints and see what happens. Well, now that we have all the new ball joints, we went to put this on, and normally if you just kind of slide it on there with a little bit of pressure, even just the weight of the knuckle, it feels solid. You still got to put a nut on there, obviously tighten it down when you run it, but you can usually feel it. It's pretty solid. But this guy has a wiggle, and it's just in this direction. It's not side to side. If you try to move it a little bit, it moves the ball joint right away. You can see that. But if you try to go up and down, you can move that knuckle. So it's worn. The knuckle's basically junk. I don't know. There might be a way that you could refinish that, or you might be able to ream it if you get a tapered ream. But then the height's going to be a little bit different. I mean, ideally, we just need a new knuckle, which sucks. I guess that's not ideal. But as opposed to trying to refinish this or ream it to get it consistent, because that'll change things slightly. It might be okay if you had to in a pinch. If you had a beater or a daily driver or something that you're just super on a budget for, you could probably ream it and it would be okay. But we're doing all this work. We really just need a new knuckle. So
that's super fun for me because I get to continue to buy things, which is my favorite.
Well, then of course it opens the can of worms of now bearing, hub, the seals. This we noticed that little wheel stud was not all the way seated as we were pulling it apart. Not sure why. Don't know if that's a big deal. I mean, obviously we're gonna fix that at the very least, but
the mysteries of an Australian Supra.
Yeah. Why do we have one lug nut pushed back and a slightly loose lower ball joint that wore out the knuckle on this one side? It's kind of strange, but
I don't know.
All we can do is try and put as many good new fresh parts on it from here going forward as we can.
And so this side, we also got the upper and lower control arms in there. But yeah, as soon as we messed around with the knuckle, like we were saying, that's when we ran into issues. So
yeah, and the upper has to come back off anyway when we put the shock in, which we just learned, putting the other one in on the other side.
got to do that one twice.
But that's all together.
Yeah. So the other side's looking good. Rears, Sam has kind of just started with these bushings as I started researching parts and whatnot. But, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
Just when you think you got everything, you need a couple more things. And there were definitely some, like Sam said, there were some inclinations in the beginning where he was like, this isn't tight. This seems weird. This knuckle could be messed up. And that looks to be the case. So I think we're going to keep trucking along with these here. Is that the correct? That's not the correct one.
That's the number it says.
Well, we're going to hope that
Don't know about that one.
That bushing kit, there is a bushing for it. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. That was the nice way they sent me that bushing kit in USPS mailer with clearly photocopied
packaging
instructions that were terrible. Unlike the other one that I got, which was actually like pretty nice and came in the manufacturer's box and looked like the real deal. I don't know where that's at the moment, but yeah. It's midnight on a Friday, and here we are. Hey, Sam. Thanks, buddy.
What I'm here for.
One of the other things we noticed when putting the bushings into the strut rod, I ordered an SC300 kit for the rear bushings, and actually ordered a front SC300 kit too because I read a thread on Supra forums about somebody else using them and how they work fine, and I went ahead with that. I was so hung up though on the front and lower control arms and what I would have to do for that I totally glossed over the part that mentioned one of the bushings that has to be switched up. So on the strut rod, there are 2 bushings, and that's the one to my left. And the bottom bushings, because it's for a Supra and not an SC300, need to be flipped. So Sam figured that out. Then I went on the internet, and he was like, I don't think this is working. So, he's smart. He figured it out. And then I went on the internet to verify, and fortunately, that was the case. So Sam's tossing those strut rod bushings in now. Another thing that I was reading about polyurethane bushings and squeaking and all that is, I'm neurotic with noises, so that's kind of a thing that I have. And there's also a problem in that I like old Toyotas because old Toyotas are rickety and they make a lot of noise, even their flagship sports car, because it's Toyota. And I love them, don't get me wrong. But still, when cars make noises all the time, it drives me nuts. So in an effort to prevent the polyurethane bushings from being super squeaky, I went back and forth and I was like, maybe I should do just rubber bushings and kind of go with like OEM type replacement stuff. But ultimately I decided to try out this Teflon tape method. And basically you just wrap each of the bearings in Teflon tape, or each of the bushings in Teflon tape. And the metal
The inner sleeve.
the inner sleeve as well. And apparently the Teflon tape lasts a lot longer than all of the grease that you normally put in there. That super sticky stuff that comes with the polyurethane bushings. So that's going to be kind of a test, and we're going to see how that goes. I've heard good feedback. I did a little bit of research on it, and I don't know, people say that they leave this in there for years and that the Teflon holds up a lot better than just throwing in that grease that's sent with them. So that's going to be a big test. And as I put on some mileage over the summer, I'll definitely get back to you guys and let you know how that goes. But other than that, I think we're going to keep plugging away here, putting some bushings in, and I don't know how much more we got in us.
It's getting late.
It's getting late.
My back hurts.
My grumpy girlfriend's back hurts. But thanks for watching, and the 2 defeated people in this garage will soon be going to bed. But we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Nighty night.